If you buy an equity into the property, that also could be configured that you can be responsible for the taxes and all that, or you share in on the responsibility of the taxes, on the responsibility of the water, on the responsibility of the insurance. That can be figured into if you such agree to. You don't necessarily have to. All right. If that's what it takes to make the deal and you know it's a good deal, then of course that's your decision to make. However, the tax advantages is going to go to the seller, not you. Now you got to talk to an accounting. Because you gaining equity into the property, you will have depreciation value based on the state that's which you're in, and accounting can help you and walk you through that and let you know what your percentage is for you to be able to write off. Okay. So you got to talk to your accounting. And if you are accruing some of the costs of maintenance of the property, then your accounting will be able to work with you to let you know what percentage you're able to get written off. And you got to keep your receipts on these kind of things. But again, all these things are a negotiable instrument involving in this instrument that you are signing. Okay. However, the buyer does get to deduct them from his or her taxes if you're in that kind of state. And if the tax accounting has agreed to that, that's why you need to see one and they'll let you know. I don't want to walk on waters that I have no business being on. So I'm not going to tell you that you can get that and that you can do that, because that may not be necessarily true, depending upon the state that you're in. Okay. All right. So under the land contract, as we talk about, that's pretty much what land contracts is structured on. And the difference of them is pretty much based on what your options are and what you can and cannot do, and the type of clauses that you find more in the land contract. Land contract is a form of the seller's financing. It is similar to a mortgage, but rather than borrowing that particular amount of money from a bank or a lender, you're basically making the payments to the seller. The seller didn't loan you the money, you're just making the payments to them. The buyer makes the payments to the owner. Okay. What is the difference between the land contract and a rent-to-own? As I mentioned to you earlier, giving you all the differences of the clauses, the land contract is that the seller maintains control of and is responsible for the property in a lease agreement. The seller is responsible for the maintenance and the repairs and paying the property taxes and insurance, just like a landlord does under the lease agreement. That is not, usually those things are not a negotiable tool in a lease agreement, but they are in a land contract and can be. Rent-to-own agreement, which are similar but with the same important differences. Both cases, the landlords are a type of seller financing without loaning you the money, but you're basically paying the seller the difference of the shortfall of the loan that you won't be able to obtain, or the shortfall of the down payment that you don't have. Okay. This is a good thing during this time when mortgage financing is so hard. These tools are so wonderful to use. It's a good thing to use these tools. It can help you get a slice of the American dream. Now, when you go back to the bank to qualify, you've already have paid your $40,000, and so now you borrow $80,000, so you should be able to get the loan easily with hands down. So now you can exercise the land contract to do what you need to do. Okay, those are the wonderful things that you could acquire when you are ready to exercise that land contract. Okay? That land contract can work for you and help you to gain the American dream, your home, when you have very little money or no money to put down. It can certainly aid you in that perspective. Okay? So those are good tools to utilize on the land contract. I have seen and heard where some people have went into some difficult times and had to switch from a land contract to a lease agreement. Okay. The difference between switching is that the money that you were giving, you're building equity into the property under the lease agreement. That equity building under the land contract has ended. And then you won't see that difference until the closing table. Okay, where you get the credit of that. All right. So it's not a loss. You're not losing anything. It's just a different wording setting and a different structure setting, a stronger structure setting with the land contract, especially with the land contract B. Land contract A is very similar to a lease agreement. It really is. You know, still have all the fundamental strength of land contract B, but it's just a similarity there. Okay. It's just a little different. That's all. I want to talk to you about what is a purchase default on a land contract. A purchase default is what ensures that the buyer will not violate the terms of the contract. General purchase default can include if the purchaser is late in making a payment, the purchaser has a notice period to redeem the default. During this period, he or she will be subject to a late fee charge, the amount of which was agreed upon in the contract. This is a clause. So even on a land contract, you can't be late, okay? Now, it may not be reported to the bureau, but you can mess this up. You can default. And if you default, then of course the seller does not have to reinstate this. In my next sentence phase, it goes on to say that the purchase failed to redeem the default. Then of course you lose. You lose the down payment that you put forth. The equity that you build up in should be returned to you, can be returned to you. You can also get a penalized penalty involving in that too, if that's so stipulated in the clause. It all depends on what was in the land contract clauses. Okay. But the seller has the right to reinstate this agreement if the purchaser can occur the default. So meaning that if you can pay up the arrears that is owed, then the seller will agree to accept it, and then you guys can keep on. But the right rests with the seller. He doesn't have to do that because you did a default. Okay. Insurance, in most cases, the seller will be responsible for insurance on all of his and her personal items. Okay. The purchaser will be responsible and have insurance on all of his personal items. And what I mean by that, okay, the seller is going to have a homeowner's insurance. The homeowner's insurance does not protect your personal items. You need to know this. Even on a land contract, even though you're building equity into the property, his insurance, unless he adds you on his insurance, and in most cases, I have not seen that. Not saying it doesn't exist, but I haven't seen that. If it happens, great. Doesn't mean that it doesn't happen. I just haven't seen it. Then you are protected. But if he doesn't add you on there, then his homeowner's insurance only covers the structure of the property and what items that he may have had within that structure of the property. It does not cover your personal items. That means that you have to have what it called rental insurance. You have to obtain, which is very cheap, by the way, rental insurance to protect your property inside of the property in which you are purchasing on a land contract, where actually you are paying down for the purchase. That key word, paying down for the purchase of the land contract. All right. Now, if the land contract so stipulate you to provide the homeowner's insurance on the property and you pay the property taxes and you agreed to do all of that stuff, well, then you are protected. I think you're a fool if you do that. All right. Let the seller continue to pay for what he has. You're only buying a smaller percentage into the property to be exercised at a later time down the road. However, these things can be a negotiable factor for you, and you can negotiate and be able, based on talking to your accounting and the state that which you're in, you can also check and see what kind of write-off structures could be obtained if you were to do that. That's you getting out there and getting information prior to you signing the land contract. Okay. Not all land contract consists of that. So I know you see it on the internet. They tell you that this is part of the land contract, consists on a land contract. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Okay. If you find out that a structure of the property, maybe you had water flood that's in the property, that's in your basement, and the landlord sent people out to make the repairs, okay, and then discover that the foundation is badly damaged, they would take up to $10,000 and $15,000 to fix that. You can exercise your option to opt out of that land contract, or that could be easily used as a stronger negotiable tool of the price. But be careful there, because sometimes that little extra man inside of you say, oh, it's a great opportunity because I know my guy John, he can fix this up for me, man, and get it done for me for $9,000. Yeah, that's true, but you have to get it done prior to you exercising your option on that land contract during the ending period. Because the lender is not going to loan money to a property that has a structure damage. And that's going to show up in the appraisal anyway. And that's going to kill your loan. So if that's the case, and you do make that negotiation, then you know you have to have that complete, done right and properly prior to you executing your land contract. So if you are in that position to where you know somebody that can do this kind of work or other kind of works like that, then you can do those type of negotiable factors, but you know it has to be done and complete before you can exercise your options of that land contract. Other than that, you'll blow your loan. Okay. The purchase of wood. Okay, go back here. The land contract, often described by other terminology listed, is a contract between, and this is what land contract is, a contract between the buyer and the seller of real property in which the seller provides the buyer financing in the purchase, and the buyer repays the resulting loan in installment. Okay, there's really no loan that was issued. It's just an agreement set forth that in the land contract that you have a shortfall and you want to cover that shortfall. And then at the end of that term, that shortfall is covered. And all you have to do is just bring the rest of the money from a traditional lending institution to purchase that property. But sometimes getting into a land contract, you automatically know that, man, your credit is like doo-doo. But you enter into this land contract agreement and sold the seller with the option that, hey, you're going to be able to bring the $80,000 to the table. But it gives you time to make credit repair on your credit in that process time because you signed a 3-year land contract. So it gives you plenty of time to build your credit up, to get you up to speed and to be able to do so, to exercise. All right. There are other lending institutions out there, such as credit unions, that you do not have to become a member of that union for that credit union to be able to work for you. Okay? I have a little problem here. There it is. You do not have to become a member. Other financial institutions like hardball money lenders, they give you short term. But you need to exercise this option right away because your time of the land contract is over.